Well, let's bring in John Northcott, because what is happening on the ground for travelers is pretty much confusion and chaos. There's not much capacity in the system anymore, John. There's not a lot. You don't just find planes sitting on lots waiting to be called in case there's a situation. So how much of a challenge is this now?
Especially this week, Heather, a week that has hundreds of thousands of Canadians hoping to make it back home in the next 48 to 72 hours. So they wrap up their March break and they get back to school and work. When you consider that the 737 has a capacity of somewhere between 178 and 200 passengers, many of these aircraft doing multiple flights back and forth within a 24-hour period, then you have the number for Air Canada alone between 9,000 and 12,000 passengers a day potentially affected by this. Air Canada notifying passengers, of course, they're going to waive any fees to rebook, asking for patience, not only as you wait, but even as you wait to get online to book that flight. Warnings as well, and considerations being put out there from companies. This from WestJet, and those of you waking up this morning planning to take a WestJet flight in the next few days may well receive this, as one passenger did. We'd like to reassure you that over 92% of our fleet is operating as usual, while there may be some interpretations, or rather interruptions to our schedule as we mitigate the impact of this decision. You can book with confidence knowing that WestJet continues to fly throughout our network with the safety of guests and employees at the forefront. Again, this email sent to WestJet passengers who are hoping to take off in the next few days. Here's how it breaks down in terms of available planes. 24 Boeing 737 MAXs from Air Canada. This out of a fleet of some 400 planes. So there is some capacity within the system that they're hoping to act on. In the case of WestJet, 13 of 175 planes. And the situation here with Sunwing, 4 out of 40 planes. Passengers, a variety of reactions. In many cases, people stuck around the world waiting to take off. This from Omer Hidik, Air Canada. I'm already in Hawaii. Flew back, flight schedule March 14th, canceled March 16th, still says scheduled. What should I do? You won't take calls. Are you flying planes in time? So a question there being sent out on Twitter to Air Canada. Need to recognize Air Canada for the swift, thorough customer service. Upon learning, I've been reassured the airline that my reservations have been rectified in due time. Thanks, Air Canada, for the fantastic customer service as well. They're scrambling to change Air Canada flight, staying alive. Many people pointing out that the alternative could be much worse than being stuck in a vacation destination for a while. And finally this, one flight canceled because of the grounding of these aircraft. The pilot bought 23 pizzas for those on board. Heather?
An appreciated gesture, I am sure. Let's look to the American picture, John. We heard from Donald Trump yesterday. This is going to continue now. Also a grounding until further notice was his terminology. What is the situation there?
A similar situation as in Canada, but it's worth noting that, for example, Air Canada has the second largest fleet of 737s in the world. So this is felt here in Canada, and of course we are having this March break situation as well, but the Americans dealing with that as well, with a variety of carriers as well. This, of course, prompted by, as in part at least, by that satellite data here. You've got the orange of Ethiopian Airlines, and you have the Lion Air in the moments before the crashes of those two aircraft. This, in part, supplied by Airlines, the Canada Connected Company, and we understand that Americans have been speaking to the Canadian officials as part of that decision. The decision made with such speed that, for example, this Southwest jet on the taxiway set to take off turned around. The notification was enacted that immediately. Here's one of the customers.
We're on our way to Disney World, and we were on the runway, and then the pilot informed us that our plane was being grounded by an order from the president.
So that's where it stands right now, Heather, and those around the world working, in many cases, to rebook those flights to get home in time.
And we don't have any sense, do we, John, about how long this will last?
No, again, looking at that capacity,
yes.
Could be a matter of days, could be a little longer, we'll see. But they do have a lot of aircraft at their disposal that they are rerouting, and maybe they're all going to be full at a time when they might not normally be.
2013, when the FAA grounded the Dreamliner, the 787, it happened in January, did not go back into service until April over the battery issue at that time, if you remember. So we will see, and of course, stay right on top of it. Thank you, John.